What's art? You see, Rob Sullivan, my co-host on the podcast, recently asked, can role-playing games and games in general be art? And he also asked for us, some of us, to bring forward some games that we think are art. This is a very tricky one. I'm not going to go into the definition of art, because the definition of art has changed throughout the centuries immensely. And what we consider today to be art wasn't art 50, 40 years ago. So I'm just going to give here my own perception of whether games are, can be, or are not art. Let me make this very categorically. Yes, games can be art, indeed. Indeed. The problem is, what makes them art, if anything? From my point of view, there are certain conditions that have to be met for something to be art in my eyes. And this is a very subjective thing. Okay, there are things that I don't consider to be art, and they have been recognized to be art. Miro, I hate it. I just cannot stand it. I don't understand what it's all about and how people can be so infatuated with Miro. And yet he is a very well recognized artist, and people swear by him. And I don't get it. Does that mean I'm wrong? No. Does that mean I'm right? No. Does that mean they're right? No. Does that mean they're wrong? No. It means it's art. I just don't get it. Okay? When we look at games, okay, maybe this is why Miro is a bit art, because it does elicit a reaction. There is a relationship between me and the artwork, even if I dislike it immensely. For there to be art, there has to be a relationship. For me, there has to be an intent to create a relationship between the piece of artwork and the viewer or the user or the gamer in this instance. Does that mean that every single game becomes a piece of art? No, not at all, because there's always a relationship between you and your game, especially in RPG where you have so much input into the game. Is there art in games? Absolutely, unquestionably. This piece is by one of my favorite artists ever, Wayne England. Love him, absolutely love him. This is a piece of artwork within a game. Does this piece of work makes the game art? No, not really. So I have established, for me, there needs to be intent. For me, there needs to be a sense of uniqueness, an effort into creating something special, that when people are going to read it, they are going to feel something. It's going to instigate a reaction. Monte Cook is very good at doing that. His games are very good at inspiring something, some sort of reaction. Probably nothing better than Toulouse to illustrate that. Why do I use Toulouse? Because it's not a game itself, it's just a setting. But it was produced with a specific intent in mind to create a really special environment where people can play, develop, evolve, and to some degree live within, which is what happens when you fall in love with a piece of artwork. You know, Velázquez, Goya, Magritte, any of those, you fall into that piece of artwork and there is a connection in there. Toulouse tried that very well indeed. And I feel Monte succeeded, at least as far as I'm concerned. That's why I think Toulouse is a piece of artwork. this edition of A Game of Thrones, I think this edition sent the company into bankruptcy. They are not longer alive. But they wanted to do something special. They wanted to give you a world where you can live, where you can exist, where you can connect with. That effort, for me, turns this game into a piece of artwork. Not just to mention that the literature behind it is art, and that's unarguable. If you're trying to argue that, please don't bother, because I'm not even going to listen to it. That makes this, as far as I'm concerned, a piece of artwork. But this is mass-produced, you mean? You say, I hear you say, this is just another book that's been printed and that is the end of it. It's not as simple as that. It really is not as simple as that. But I'm going to choose yet another example of something that for me has possibly been one of the greatest form of artistic development and therefore piece of art since role-playing games began. This is the special edition of Bookhounds of London by Pelgrane Press. The reason why I consider it to be art, you have your deluxe edition book. Quite frankly, it's like any other deluxe edition that Pelgrane Press has produced. This is not art, but it's artistic. Then you get Bookhounds of London limited edition featuring stuff, and this is where we begin to see the creation of the artwork. You get a few pages. Inside you get an extra book, and inside the book we get some cuttings from a map. And the book's been written for this. It's brilliant. It's the August Darcy Guide to Occult London. And then you get The Knights of London by H.V. Morton, a book published for the first time. This is the 7th edition. The first edition was published in 1926 and the 7th edition in 1934. And then you get a bunch of weird coins and a bag. The bag had to be graffitied with Darcy and the occult symbol. You're thinking this is just another product. Why is this art? This is not in itself the art. Another couple of hundreds of these were created, each one of them with a different book, each one of them with a different chunk of the mop, each one of them with the same book. I'm going to be controversial in here, surprise. You know what the art is? The art is the creation of all of them, the creation of the limited edition. They created something that was going to be unique. There's never going to be something like this again. This alone is just a piece, like a collage. All of them together is the piece of artwork, just like a collage. Make of it what you like. I don't care. This proves that intent to elicit a connection with the gamer, the thinking behind this wonderfully put together limited edition, makes all that work art. And for me, that's what matters. Argue if you must that games cannot be art, but do it in the know that you're very, very wrong.